Hey guys, welcome to the Explanation Pro. In this video, I am gonna talk about the 2002 action drama, Windtalkers. As usual, there will be spoilers ahead, so take them with a grain of salt and let's get started. A man is hugging his family as a bus is approaching. He waves goodbye to them and enters the bus as well as sees his friend. They talked for a while because he didn't expect that he would see him there. At a river, blood is flowing all over. It was from a floating dead soldier. Gunshots appeared from nowhere. It was back in the Solomon Islands in 1943. Suddenly, the enemies approach them violently, not just with guns but also stabbing with knives. Another man is stabbed and they are now running out of ammo. They need to get out of there. A grenade erupts and the one who seemed like their leader defends his members. However, they are running out of ammo and they are feeling helpless. He says that they got orders to hold the position, and that's what they should stick to doing. Another bomb comes their way which brings death to some of them. One was shot multiple times as he just wanted to defend himself. Bill also shoots their enemies, and when he's about to get near their leader, he also gets shot multiple times. He screams as his members are dying, then dynamite approaches him. At Camp Pendleton in California, men are swearing in regards to protecting and defending the United States of America. The man and his friend are doing well in practicing to be good code talkers. Around 1943 at a U.S. hospital, the soldier was staring at nothingness with his damaged left ear. There are also a couple of soldiers that are healing their wounds. He can still hear sounds from the war that causes him migraines. He cannot walk but is doing his best to be better. His nurse is accompanying him everywhere as well as checking his hearing sensors. It turns out well. Back at the camp, Charlie and Ben are doing their best to decode a war practice. While Enders, the Marine, is getting complimented from the previous war, where he almost lost all his men. He states to his major that he is now prepared to go into a battle again. The major tells him that the soldiers come up with a new code, based on the Navajo language. He will be in pair with one of them and his job is to keep the translator safe at all times. He begs the major's pardon pertaining that he'd best serve the Corps killing Japs, but the other states that they need good Marines and he needs to protect the code at all times as well as never let the code talker fall under enemies' hands. Enders states that he understands, then the major turn him into a sergeant. In the camp, the soldiers are training and making themselves busy in preparation for the upcoming war. The code talkers also find themselves back in the camp. The sergeant doesn't want to get too friendly with the newcomers. They are now eating as his pair joins him but he just shrugs it off. Because of nervousness, Yazi spills Enders' food and he mindlessly steals his food. The soldiers are now drinking and playing card games while the two Navajos are writing letters. They invite the two but only Yazi goes to play while Charlie just plays his flute. The next day, they are now ready to receive orders in which they are going to Saipan and will take the land from them. The major introduces the radio men which are Private Whitehorse and Yazi as well as their sergeants, Enders and Henderson. Enders feels a little unwell due to his ear and the war again flashbacks in his mind, so he walks away from the meeting. Yazi follows and sees him throwing up, so he offers his lifesaver medicine. While he is talking properly with the sergeant, Enders is treating him like trash, so he just walks away as well. The soldiers are now at a party, enjoying and drinking while Enders is staring at nothingness. His nurse comes to him and gives him medicines for his damaged ear. They both take a shot for the war. It's 1994 and the soldiers are now attacking the island of Saipan. They dig holes to keep them safe, but not all of them are lucky as the Japanese are blowing off big bombs towards their camp. The enemies come running to them while they're moving as well to catch the Americans, but they defend themselves pretty well. The sergeant manages to defend enemies from Yazi by straight shooting the enemies as well as those underground. Some of his people are caught by fire by the bomb, which again reminded him of his trauma. While the battle is getting intense, some of their soldiers have been stuck in the spiky wires. Not long after, the enemies throw a bomb at all of them surrounding various wires. One of the soldiers gets mad and defensive, so he throws a bomb at the enemy's camp. A Japanese tank comes approaching, so all of them duck. Meanwhile, they are still throwing each other's bombs and exchanging bullets. The sergeant tells him the code and advises him to relay the coordinates, which he does. Yazi passes the code to Whitehorse and the USS California receives the code. Even the Japanese soldier radio men hear it. They cannot understand a bit, they even think that they are underwater. Because of the scent code, the USS points powerful bombs toward the enemies and even adjusts the angles without any hassle. They again fight against the Japanese while Sergeant Enders is leading the next moves. With Enders' command, they torch the box, which exuded a very huge fire to the enemies. All of them are burning with fire, but one of them succeeded to duck and he points a gun at Yazi, and so he does it as well. Pointing guns at each other, the sergeant points his gun at the enemy, but he's out of bullets, so he tells Yazi to kill him. As the tension arises, Enders gets the knife into the enemy's pocket and stabs his neck. With the war getting long, more and more of their members are also getting shot. The sergeant decides to leave their sight and moves towards another pit. He throws his bag, which contains a bomb, but it didn't land successfully. Their enemies try to shoot it and he even fights one of them who gets attacked. The sergeant picks his bag and shoots it underground where most of their enemies are. The explosion is massive, which then spits bits of fire. At dawn, their ammo gets replaced and they have a new code, which is wind and talkers. Some soldiers are outside, having a smoke and talking about girls as well as their lives before the war happened. One of them is kind of regretful while the other is very proud that he is fighting. All of a sudden, a man removes his ring and tells Pappas to give it to his wife if anything happens to him. He just replies to not joke like that because he's going home. The two Navajos are doing their tradition between a bonfire while Enders again receives a letter from his wife. Other soldiers are being creeped out because it seems like they are doing prayer in their native language, but they keep on doing it. The next day, Yazi is taking a bath in a beautiful lake, and when he's about to get his clothes, his member steps on it. He tells him that the only thing different between a Jap and him is the uniform alone. Yazi calls him an ignorant fool, so he kicks him. He's getting punched again with a shotgun and Enders sees it from afar. Suddenly, he punches the man real hard and the fight becomes intense. One of them interrupts it, but the only gets pushed by Chick. Enders holds on Chick while the other one's on Yazi. Many are looking at them. Chick says he looks like a Jap while Yazi defends that he's a Navajo. Enders scolds him because his job is to keep him safe, yet he goes into a fight with a fellow soldier. While walking, Yazi tells the sergeant about ghosts and that means he's never going to freeze again and he'll do his best because his buddy smeared ash on his forehead. Whitehorse is playing his flute when a soldier greets him saying that it's beautiful while he shows his harmonica, who's given by his father as well. They both try to play something that turns out good. Enders' wife keeps on writing him letters that play through his head. On their trip, he asks Yazi what he's doing and he's writing a letter to his son. The sergeant orders him to stop because that's the order, so he puts the paper back in his bag. He asks him about his son and Yazi tries to whiff a cigarette when all of a sudden, bombs keep on exploding on their way. The soldiers duck due to bombs, then they run because they're on the wrong road. That's when the Japs are shooting them non-stop. The bombs keep on exploding while the enemies keep on firing. Yazi tells Enders that he's right, he looks like a nip. He says he'll go on Japanese radios and call their guns while pretending a Jap. He changes clothes while Enders says he's going with him and teaches him some basic Nihongo. While the two are pretending to be Japanese and a prisoner, they continue to battle with bullets. Enders gets hit, but it affected his ear, so he gets a gun of Yazi's and shoots everyone. They kill everyone at the headquarters and Yazi begins to call the USS requesting a ceasefire. Enders gets looked upon and told that he's being commended for his deeds. He tells him he can't do it without Yazi and even defended him. He gives his medal to someone and asks him to give it to Nellie's wife. Yazi gets near him and Enders offers him a drink, rice wine, Jap sake. He praises him as he did well in finding ways for them to have a radio. Yazi then says that he did a noble thing, giving his medal to a widowed wife. Enders even shares stories that he doesn't care about medals and even threw one in the ocean. Yazi comforts him by saying that he only does the command and he's a good Marine while he falls as he goes to the cemetery of fallen soldiers. Yazi helps him by letting him rest and doing some tradition over him with the help of a cigarette. The next day, they are again walking around Saipan and talking about things they do after the war. Enders' wife keeps on sending him letters updating him about the happenings. The two men are playing their instruments while Enders enters a door, seeing a hurt child with his guardian. He gives him some pain relievers and water. He playfully draws a church at a flower that makes Yazi initiate a conversation between them. They talk about being Catholic and their silly doings as well as inviting Sergeant to Navajo and even do things there such as riding horses. He also says he could meet his son and Enders tells him that he must be a good father. A soldier enters the room and tells Yazi that the captain needs code back to the command post. Enders then messes his drawing, then goes to their camp and asks Gunny to mast with battalion commanders because he can't do his job. Soldiers are playing with various Japanese kids and the other one is even giving chocolate when suddenly, he gets shot. Their base gets exploded and everyone is in panic. Due to the man's oxygen tanks at his back, he is now burning with fire. Enders ends his suffering by shooting him. As the battle is getting started again, soldiers from both parties are exploding bombs, throwing bullets, and even stabbing each other. Whitehorse's sergeant gets shot and he goes to him right after. The sergeant still protects Whitehorse even before his death when he gets beheaded by a samurai. The Japanese soldiers decide to not kill Whitehorse and interrogate him. Enders sees Whitehorse being interrogated, so he decides to throw a grenade to end it as well as protecting the code. Yazi comes back and sees his dead friend while Enders tells him the truth, so he punches him and points a gun, but their member begs him not to do it. The next day, they are walking again while the radio honored Charlie's death. Yazi does their tradition in honor of Charlie while there's still tension at the both of them. Their leader tells him to go through mountains so Saipan will be theirs. Gunny also gives a letter to Enders, but he does not receive it and continues walking. The soldiers arrive at the mountains and decide to freeze as they feel bombs in the area. Because none of them wants to move, Yazi decides to lead the way despite the danger. One of them loses balance and lies down to a bomb, causing it to explode, so the Japs shoot them. Bombs continue to erupt, but the soldiers keep on moving and shoot their enemies. They decide to move while the others cover. Gunny gets shot, so Joe gives him morphine, but Yazi moves forward without any defense, so he leaves them. On the other hand, Yazi keeps on perfectly shooting the enemies. Enders shoots them as well and sees his members without Gunny. He's dead. They are now losing ammo and feeling hopeless, but Enders tries to comfort them. The Japanese decide to release a large bomb. They fire it and their tanks explode. Enders gets the radio, but the enemy gets it. He gets the radio and the rest of his members cover him. Yazi then still fights angrily with the sergeant, but he saves him from the bomb. When he's about to get the radio again, he gets shot multiple times. He gives the radio to Yazi, telling him that they need air support while Enders gives him the coordinates. He helps Yazi to get out of there, but they always get shot. Enders decides to defend Ben, but he points the gun at himself. He picks up Yazi despite the shootings. Their air support bombs the Japanese area while Ben is okay. Joe gets shot in the chest. Almost dying, Enders says a prayer. When he reaches death, Yazi gets his necklace. His fellow members are left in shock as their sergeant dies. Now back at Navajo, Ben Yazi, together with his family, are on a mountain. They put Enders' necklace in the water while he tells his son about Joe Enders, a fierce warrior and a good Marine from South Philadelphia. He tells his son, George, that he was his friend. Ben does some rituals with the necklace in honor of Joe. The movie ends with the Navajo Code becoming vital in the victory at Saipan and every major battle in the Pacific. It was never been broken at all. That's all for today's video, and thanks for watching it. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, let me know in the comments below which movie you want me to cover in the next video. Until next time, take care and stay tuned.